everybody. This is going to be 14.7, the Holocaust, and we're going to start with a more modern quote from a Holocaust survivor named Elie Wiesel, who said, "For the dead and the living, we must bear witness." So, for those who died, we cannot forget them, but also we need to make sure that we are continuing their legacy. Our objectives: we are going to trace the roots and progress of Hitler's campaign against the Jews. We are going to explain the goals of Hitler's final solution and the nature of Nazi death camps. And we're going to examine how the United States responded to the Holocaust. So, yeah, this one's not going to be the most fun of lectures. Let's look at the roots. Nazis had a very twisted belief of their own superiority. Beliefs focused on this quasi-scientific, half spiritual belief in like these ancient race of supermen that they came from, called Aryanism. But they specifically had a hatred of the Jewish people and the Jewish religion. They felt that based on a long series of, conspiracy theories ranging for centuries throughout Europe, there was this anti-Semitism, this hatred and anger and fear of the Jewish people, and it was a major part of Hitler's speeches and his plans. Basically, anything where he could blame something on someone, he blamed it on the Jewish people. So, during Hitler's time in power, he rose to power. He started to slowly take away the rights and citizenship of Jewish people in Germany. So, for instance, the Nuremberg laws stripped them of their citizenship and then later forced them into ghettos, which are walled off sections of the cities that they lived in. Even children were taught to hate Jewish people. German children were taught to hate Jewish people by books like The Mushroom, which is an anti-Semitic children's book from the time period. Hitler, like I said, blamed the Jewish people for everything, including the fire that burned down basically the German parliament known as the Reichstag. After a Jewish refugee allegedly killed a German diplomat, the German people went into a frenzy and were protected by Hitler's brown shirts and the police force. They burned synagogues, they burned Jewish businesses, they attacked Jewish people on sight. This night was November 9th and 10th of 1938, known as Kristallnacht, the Night of Broken Glass. This was not just allowed, like I said, it was encouraged by Nazi politicians. So anti-Semitism was fueled and was condoned by the German high command of the Nazi Party. So here is a Jewish business after Kristallnacht. Now, many Jewish people did try to escape Germany. However, they were not always allowed into other countries. This included the United States, unfortunately, where we see an example of this, where a ship full of mostly Jewish refugees called the St. Louis tried to dock in Havana, Cuba, was rejected, and then they tried to dock in the United States with 900 refugees, but America said no and sent the ship back to Europe. Almost 600 of the Jews on board died in concentration camps. So here are some of the refugees on board the St. Louis. Now, Hitler eventually had been taking the rights of Jewish people, their citizenship, their homes, and eventually their lives. He called this his final solution, was to exterminate all Jewish people in a genocide, a wiping clean of their entire race. In order to do this, Hitler used at first death squads, sort of death squads that would move from city to city to town. And when this proved insufficient and not effectual, he started to send Jewish people to concentration camps like Auschwitz and Buchenwald and Ravensbrück. Ravensbrück was for female prisoners. Concentration camps would more or less, they would kill the people who could not work, and then the people who could work, they would work to death. Prisoners were also worked to death in death camps, or not in death camps, I'm sorry. Death camps were set up specifically for the death of the people who moved in. So oftentimes the prisoners would get off the train, and within a half an hour of getting off the train in these death camps, they would be dead. So here's Auschwitz with Arbeit macht frei. over the gate, "Work sets you free." A rather horrible sort of irony with that there, because to many who arrived at Auschwitz, there was no freedom ever again. And here is the death camp of Treblinka. We only have the drawing because the Nazis burned it to the ground, destroyed it when it looked like it would be discovered by the Allies. So this is Treblinka. It was meant to look like a train station, and they would get off and they would be killed usually within a few minutes of getting off the trains. Now, in response to the Holocaust, countries like America and Great Britain did not act, even as news of this plan spread. And we knew that something was going on in Germany because we knew where the concentration camps were, and we did not bomb them, but we didn't stop them necessarily either. And there's a lot of feelings for why we did this. Anti Semitism might play a part in it, anti immigrant feelings in American citizens that we weren't ready to have anyone kind of come into our place, disbelief that something this terrible could actually happen, almost a form of denial. By the end of the war, we had changed our mind and we worked to settle Jewish refugees here in America. The War Refugee Board worked with the Red Cross to rescue as many Jewish people as possible from Eastern Europe and move them to safer places. Now, as Russian and American troops pushed into Germany and German held territory, we saw the true scope and the terror and the horror of this final solution. Allies liberated concentration camps, and the number of dead and dying was huge. At least 6 million people died in the Holocaust, and that might be a low number. And that is not just the Jewish people, but also homosexuals, Catholics, people with mental or physical disabilities, the Roma people. Many of these people were killed in these concentration camps. Anyone who tried to go against Hitler could be sent to them as well. Now, after the discovery of the camps, sympathy for the Jewish people shifted, and many refugees were allowed to live in America. This also helped to create a call for a new country, the country of Israel, to be a homeland for the disparate Jewish peoples. We also see that the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum opened in 1994 as a way to also honor and remember the Holocaust as well. So here are just a few survivors of the concentration camps.